dun 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 dun. It's Horizon Day with Horizon games to rock and roll with while playing them because we like Ryzen. How you doing, Mr. Jor?
I'm doing well, man. What a glorious day to see Aloy
Yes, yes, it is
in a hot dog costume.
wow, look at that. That I
Insane. Or you can go for the bunny costume.
Okay, that's pretty. That's nice. That's nice. For those of you guys just listening through Spotify or iTunes, we love you. But Jor has pulled up the footage of the Lego Horizon game with Aloy wearing all sorts of different costumes: chickens, carrot, hot dog costume, cheerleader,
Cheerleader zombie.
cheerleader zombie costume, Lion Knight, oh skyrocket, classic. The banana outfit, of course.
You know it from Forbidden West. They added that later. Jungle Explorer.
Paleontologist,
And from your
popcorn.
favorite Lego series, Ninjago.
Dude.
Whoa.
Honestly, not bad skins. I think those are better skins
The
than I've
skits are
seen
pretty
in
good.
Dragon Age Veilguard too. I'll give them that. It's pretty good. Yeah. So
Gold Aloy.
you've been playing it. You've been like checking it out.
Yeah, I actually got my code like a few hours ago from Sony, so I went live a bit earlier. So we played through like the first 2 hours or like hour and a half. And yeah, it is a Lego. It's like kind of weird. It does look pretty good for what it's trying to do. Yeah, there's a lot of like care put into making this like creating the Horizon world in Legos. One of my favorite things is picking up a person. Like you have this huge home base, and that you go to between missions. And you can like pick up people and then just throw them off ledges. Like that's my this like guy is like, please pick me, and I'm like, okay, sure, go go. So yeah, you can have some fun here and there. Yeah, you can of course play couch co-op or online co-op, and it's the once again like for if you somehow missed the Zero Dawn story, there's now another way to experience it through the Lego game, and they're making some really weird decisions. Like they are changing a lot from the story, and I kind of feel bad for the people are that are yeah hearing the Horizon story or like kind of experiencing it for the first time through this Lego game, because they kind of make fun of all the very serious things, and some of the plot twists are like kind of not impactful at all. So yeah, if you play this game before you've ever touched a Horizon game, you will have ruined all the best moments from Zero Dawn. And yeah, in exchange for like a fun Lego game. But yeah, it's the the structure is weird because you go back to this home base. I like one of the big things from Zero Dawn is of course that you go into this open world for the first time. You hear about these tribes, and you kind of experience what they you kind of um see for the first time how they are living in this unique post-apocalyptic world. You see, of course, remains from the U.S. And in this game, you go back to this home base all the time, and you have this grandma that has a chicken in her hand. It's so weird. It's kind of I don't know who this is for.
Yeah, I watched some of the reviews and stuff of people talking about it, and one of the threads was people saying that it's like too toned down to really be targeting adults or like fans of the base game that really want to get something familiar but still kind of fresh, and it's also not dumbed down enough for it to really be super appealing to kids, so it's in this weird kind of limbo spot. um and I've also heard it's quite short too, which is also kind of a limiting factor on it.
Yeah, for sure.
It is beautiful. It seems really, really nice. The other
Yeah,
thing I've heard brought up a lot is that it gets really repetitive really quickly, but it's also short. So that's kind of a
Yeah,
benefit of that too.
it kind of feels like a game. I mean, it's also coming to Switch, and it feels like it's working really well on the Switch because, again, you have these sort of 10 to 15 minutes missions, and then you go back to the home base. So you can really easily pick it up, do one mission, and then, yeah, kind of go. And then just, I think that's the best way to actually play it because I already experienced the repetitiveness, even if after playing an hour and a half, because all you do is save these like the eclipse of course comes to to the Nora lands early in Zero Dawn, and what they did in this game is basically capture all the civilians from this town, and yeah, all you do is go out, save some, come back to the home base, go out, save some, come back to the home base, and yeah, it hasn't been that exciting so far, but it's especially the machines in Lego. Of course, we also had the Lego Tallneck already in real life, and seeing these like way more of how they created those machines in Lego pieces and actually fighting them is pretty fun too. So there are totally some cool elements, but it's also $60. Like that's a lot of money for this.
Yeah. It seems really cutesy and artsy, and I mean, I could see it
Yeah.
being fun. $60 gets, I mean, that's pretty steep for what it appears to be to me. And it's gotten, some not bad reviews, but pretty like middling reviews. I think it's going to settle at about 7 out of 10. Might dip into like the 60s, but it seems like it's just another one of those Horizon spin-off projects, kind of like the VR game, which is just you know, wait for a sale.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really think it will be fun if you ever like this series. Like if you have a kid or something who is not old enough to experience the first game, and you also want to have some fun while playing, then I totally think doing this in co-op, because again there's couch co-op, would be a lot of fun. But yeah, I would wait for a sale. This screams like $30 in a few months to me,
Yeah.
and PS Plus at some point as well, because it really seems more made to get the series out there than to have this be like a franchise on its own.
Yeah. Um, which, I mean, the other piece of this too is that this was probably, at the same time this was greenlit. It was probably greenlit around the time they were expecting to have like the show coming out, and they were expecting to have all this other stuff coming out, which is also why they had the remaster or remake, whatever, plan. So there's just, I think they have this big plan for all these different angles of attack to bring the Horizon franchise back into the mainstream. And because the big kind of central linchpin of all of that was the show that fell apart, now it just feels like there's all these spin-offs that don't really have anything to do with each other. So it's kind of interesting, but it's here. It looks like it's fine. So if you want more Horizon, it's there to check
It's
out.
I think they kind of did their best making the series into a Lego game, but it's kind of what we've seen a lot this year, where it's like, who is this for? And yeah, that's like, yeah, sadly, creating an audience that is not there has not been working out really well this year. So I'm curious how it will do. And again, yeah, sure, it's on Switch, but those people only play Mario games, like only Nintendo games. So I don't know if they're gonna push it a lot, but I have
Yeah.
seen some like billboards outside in Amsterdam. So
Oh,
they're
really?
spending tons of money, yeah.
I mean, I'll
Which is
say
crazy.
here in the
Maybe it's
US, I've seen nothing about it.
okay. Maybe
So
it's because so that the people that work at Gorilla go to the office. They're like, "Hey, that's my game."
yeah, maybe. Did the Gorilla Company make it, or wasn't it a spin-off studio?
Yeah, it's a spin-off studio, but of course,
It's their
like
baby.
all the Horizon game, yeah, they are still really like hands-on with it still. But
Hmm.
it's mostly made by another game because Gorilla is making a different title,
Yeah. Yeah, they are. What are they making?
Horizon Online.
Yeah, we just saw you posted a little post on X just a little while ago
Yeah,
talking
I
about
did.
some new information. What did you find?
So, like, it's not my homepage, but it's close to it. The Guerrilla Games, like, they are still hiring a lot of people. And yeah, one of the job openings they now have is actually for an intern, so for a limited time. But it says release QA intern, and if we go to their to the job opening, we actually see that this person is supposed to work there for the first half of 2025, and the big thing they are going to do is they will acquire both theoretical knowledge and practical experience to ensure the game is prepared for launch. And again, it's a release QA intern for the online project. So they're basically bringing this person in, who is obviously with a ton of other QA testers, is going to extensively test this game. And yeah, at the end of their internship, so in June, they probably are leaving and made sure the game is ready to launch. That's kind of what they're saying here. Of course, it doesn't mean the game comes out directly after, but we have seen that with Sony now looking into the August and September release windows for some of their, not their sure hits. Like, I think Ghost of Yota is probably a bit later than that. But yeah, maybe this is the Concord spot or something. Although I do hope they learn and open the game up earlier for other people to receive feedback in forms of like betas and stuff. But yeah, it's interesting that they put this up. I cannot read this in a different way. Can you?
No, I mean, seeing that it's specifically targeting first half of 2025, therefore, I mean, and it's specifically a job to get it ready for launch. So, you know, during first half of 2025, prepare for the release, which would suggest the second half is when it's releasing. If they're doing betas, which they definitely should, I think, then either that's going to happen, you know, maybe this is announced in December. There's rumors of a December 3rd PlayStation showcase or something. Maybe they announce this there and then they do betas starting early next year, starting a release next fall. If they do that, I swear to God, with their luck and their history, they may end up launching really close to GTA 6, which would be so freaking funny if they did that again. Like, they announce, we're launching October 15th. GTA 6 is like, we're launching October 14th. Because that's just, that's Horizon's pedigree now, or tendency recently, is that they just always launch next to the biggest game of the year for some reason. But it would at least suggest that they're revving it up. They're getting ready to put it out there. What's fascinating though is like, this does seem as though this game and Marathon are releasing in a relatively close window. Marathon might, you know, end up in 2026 somewhere, but it would at least, it's interesting to me how differently they've marketed it, because to this day, the Horizon Online game, like, it's the elephant in the room. Everybody knows about it, but they haven't done like the official reveal. They haven't shown it off. They haven't announced betas or anything like that. Whereas Marathon, like, they're talking very openly about it. There's content creators that have been invited out there to play the game and provide feedback, and they've been allowed to share that with people. Do you think that they start to rev up the marketing cycle, or do you think that they just market these games totally differently?
Yeah, I think it's different also because, of course, Bungie has only become a real... I mean, they're still not a PlayStation studio, but they've been... Yeah, like, Sony has been more hands-on only in the recent, like, half a year. After the Final Shape, of course, launched. And, yeah, it did do well, but not good enough, of course, to turn it around for that studio. So, I totally think I don't think we can really compare it. Also, I think that game is of course more an extraction-based shooter. I think that's like a genre that's where it can benefit maybe more from bringing in a lot of people. I think what the Horizon Online game, sure, it will probably be a lot like Monster Hunter, but I don't know. I really think they, after Concord, are rethinking that strategy, but maybe the plan was at first to do this announcement and then launch it quite soon afterwards. But they will have to start talking about it soon. Like, the game director, I am linked in stalking him a lot as well, and he's now been on the game for 6 years and 10 months, which is crazy. Like, they've been working on this game. This game will be longer in development than Zero Dawn, which was their let's go from Killzone to an open world RPG. Like, they also said it openly in an interview already that this is like this feels to them kind of the same shift, even though it is in a franchise they already created. But like, an online game and making it of this caliber. Like there are hundreds of people working on it. This is a huge game. This is like a maybe one of the final Destiny attempts we will see, like a PvE focused live service game.
Yeah,
So
this do you think this would get this much money and time given to it if Herman Holst were not in the positions of leadership he's been in recently? Like, if you think this was the Sean Layden era, like, let's rewind the clocks and say Sean Layden didn't leave. He's promoted to CEO of PlayStation. Do you think somebody like Sean Layden would have given them 7 years and hundreds of millions of dollars to make this?
I think Sean Layden, of course, like at one point at Sony, they were like, okay, we're making so much money from these microtransactions from games we don't own. What if we did own one of them? And I think we talked about it on the podcast before as well. We saw Rainbow Six Siege make like 3.5 billion euro in 10 years, and it's still going on. Like there's no end in sight, at least for now. So yeah, they want a game like that. So I think at one point they were like, okay, we have all these studios. Who is capable of making a game like that? And where does it make the most sense? So like they even went to Naughty Dog and were like, hey, you guys go make one as well. Because they of course were already doing for part two an online mode that already, yeah, like they said, that it gotten bigger than the sort of mode they had at first, the factions multiplayer they had for the first game. So yeah, then they were like, okay, you go this, goes or Sucker Punch, you are a smaller team, go try the Legends thing, right? Okay, maybe we can turn that into a bigger thing. And we still don't know what they're gonna do with that, but it seems like because again they are relatively like they're like I think one third of the size, or maybe like close to half, or like maybe 35% of the size of Guerrilla Games. They're way smaller, so I cannot see them do a live service game at the same time as Ghost of Yote. But so I really think they were looking at their portfolio and actually going to all the studios and being like, are you guys open to this and what is the plan? Because also Sony Bend, the Days Gone team, is doing a live service game. So then I think looking at Guerrilla Games, they already had some multiplayer experience, of course, as one of the only big single player teams. And yeah, they I think actually an Horizon online game could work. I think also for the series, and we've talked about that before as well. Like they're trying to grow it, and Forbidden West just did not do that. It was smaller than Zero Dawn, which is kind of a red flag. Where Ragnarok did almost as well as the first game, and Part Two, Last of Us Part Two, of course. Um, Spider-Man 2 did very well as well. Sure, still those first games are in higher numbers, but they of course got many discounts. So I do think like those series kind of continued. I think for Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, like at maybe 10 million right now. Well, Zero Dawn is like at 25 million. So there's a huge gap. And I do think, okay, they want to continue with the series. Obviously, let's try this Lego game. They're gonna do a mobile game as well with NCSoft. I mean, we're seeing many AAA mobile games. Destiny Rising. Today, Monster Hunter Outlanders was revealed, which like another Chinese-made, AAA Monster Hunter mobile game. Assassin's Creed is getting one, so that's like another trend. I think actually, and also like I think Guerrilla Games is totally capable, and I don't think they would really mind changing into an online-only studio, while because then you would only lose the single-player Horizon games, and I think that's like less of an issue than Naughty Dog that stops making single-player games, or Santa Monica, because those are still of a higher tier. So maybe this is the Guerrilla moment. Like this is they come out and they're like, wow, we have all this expertise working on Zero Dawn. Like say what you will about those games, but it's mostly that people just don't really like the open world checklist type of experience they have. Aloy as a character. The online game can, like, I mean, fighting these dinosaurs together, like the amount of depth you already have in the single player games, like, I think it has a lot of potential, and the world itself has a lot of potential as well. So I would not say that Herman Hulst. I mean, totally. It seems very clear that he has a bias towards Horizon. I mean, he started. He's like one of the like CEOs of Guerrilla Games was there for a long time. So obviously, I think that plays a small role, or it plays some role for sure. But I'm not sure if I still think the Horizon Online game would have existed without him in the CEO role as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think for me the perception I have is that Herman has, of course, as you said, a sort of soft spot for Horizon. It's his baby, like Concord was, reportedly. But it's like something near and dear to him because he started at Guerrilla. He loves it dearly and he wants to see it succeed. But from my perspective, as someone who's like, on Horizon as a franchise, it seems to me like it's like, what's her name in Mean Girls? She's like, stop trying to make fetch a thing. Like, they're trying so hard to turn Horizon into the next big multi-billion-dollar international phenomenon. And so far, nothing has really hooked. Like, the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn didn't outperform the first game. The VR game was kind of met with mediocre reviews. The Lego game now is kind of being met with the same reception. The show couldn't get off the ground. Like, it feels like they are pouring so much time, effort, and money into trying to make this into a massive thing. It brings to mind the example of like the Concord bit where, but not to that crazy extent, where they were kind of putting the buggy before the horse, or the cart before the horse, where they were getting ahead of themselves trying to turn it into this big phenomenon before the audience was there yet. Now, I do think it's possible that after 7 years of development, they might have something really special on their hands where maybe players play this and they're like, I don't care what franchise this is attached to. It's awesome regardless. Like, I don't care if it's Horizon, if it's a new IP. This is so fun. It's worth playing, full stop, whether it's an IP that we know or not. It's also possible, though, that Herman, as we've seen, I think, evidenced by Concord, when he gets into the idea that this is going to be a big thing and that bias starts to take over, certain things get greenlit that shouldn't get greenlit, money gets spent that shouldn't have been spent. And I think that that's why my confidence in this has been shaken, because if he was so confident about Concord, saying that was going to be a Star Wars level success and that this was going to be their next big thing, they spent so much money on it that they even went and were paying for it to be on this new anthology series on Amazon Prime. Like, he was so blinded by his own hype for what he thought was going to be awesome that they wasted hundreds of millions of dollars on something anybody else could have said this is a bad idea. And so I think that's where my question comes from, is just, obviously Sean Layden was around when this first got greenlit, if he's been working on it for close to 7 years. But the question is whether this should have been canceled or had scope limited or something years ago. But the only reason it didn't have that happen was because Herman has a bias towards it. But I guess we'll have to wait and see, because we might get it revealed and it makes perfect sense. And it's like, this is why you spend so much time and money on it. This is awesome. Or it might come out and we're like, oh God, really?
Yeah, no, I think the chances of this flopping is obviously way higher than of it succeeding, but that's kind of the risk you want to take. And especially if you think about PvE live service games, yeah, we cannot name a lot of successful ones. Like Destiny, Division is not as big as it used to be. Like we had Anthem, we had Suicide Squad. Like, it's hard to not see this go in the same direction. But again, I think like going back to being Sony in that moment and having like, these are the teams you have and you want to invest in the live service. I do think from all the options you have, and you want to use your popular IP, because that's kind of the critique we've been giving them as well, is like, I think The Last of Us Online game would have actually been really cool, because that is something like a world you want to exist in, that I'm curious to see evolve. And like what we see, what are the successful live service games that actually bring something new to the table? And Concord failed because it was something we've already seen countless of times and with characters we don't care about. So that's where I'm like, I get that they're trying this, and yeah, you say maybe scope it down. I don't like, then you're already giving it a handicap. Like, if yeah, they are going all out with this from what we've seen, or yeah, what we're kind of like. Again, they're hiring 20 new people, while it seems overall that the gaming industry is kind of, hey, let's figure this out. And of course, we had quite some layoffs at Sony as well. So they want to make this work, and I'm just kind of scared. And I said, Samaya saw this as well. Like, there are two ways this can go. One, it will be a big flop, and I kind of fear for what will happen there. Like, obviously, a huge part has to go if they were focused on the online team, and what is like the, again, we say Zero Dawn to Forbidden West, like Horizon 3 is not suddenly gonna sell way more, I think, unless they're like, hey, we have a new character, Aloy is just a side character, and even if you've never played the other games before, you're gonna love this. We go to a brand new region that looks completely different. Maybe that can work, but you also have the other side. If this is successful, I can see Sony be like, hey, cool, the ideas were Horizon 3. Make it a smaller game. Give Aloy like her goodbye, and let's put all our effort into this online game and season 3 where we fight the flaming Thunderjaw with, I don't know. So
Yeah.
right, so it can, like, as a fan of guerrilla games, I'm just very scared, but I do think the online game is the only way I can see this franchise grow beyond the people they already have, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that because I think Forbidden West demonstrated that they've already captured the people who are really interested in Horizon, and it doesn't seem like more Horizon is the way to grow the tent. Because people kind of have made up their minds. Either they find this really compelling, they like Aloy, and the world, or they just are not finding it that compelling. So either they need to go with a new protagonist, find a new angle or something, or like you say, maybe go into a different sort of different genre or different angle where there's a new player base. I do think if this really is just like a big epic live service, like if this franchise is Fallout 76, not, you know, to tie it to like the bad launch or whatever, but just to say that it's Horizon, but it's an MMO and it's a big map, and then they do seasonal updates and stuff. I do think there's people that are going to play that, but I don't see this connecting with the people who are diehard fans of the single player games. Like I'm not sure if the overlap is that high. And my fear for this is going back to last year when we started really talking about this on the show. My fear has been that they are going head to head with seemingly a Monster Hunter inspired game with a Monster Hunter game launching in the same year. And I mean, they're also apparently going to be within like a few months of potentially GTA 6's online mode launching. Like, I don't care what your game is. If you're going head to head with GTA 6 online, like, you're going to be losing. So
Yeah, but if you're Guerrilla right now and you have this game in development for 7 years, you can't, like, it's probably way more expensive to have developers work on it for another year to
Mm.
avoid that. So yeah, but I get it. Like, they're in a tough position as well. I am seeing, like, in a lot of the job openings that they do seem to focus like on cinematics, and maybe it will be way more story focused. I do think, like, if they can shine another light on the Horizon world and give you way more stories, and maybe takes place before Aloy or something like that. I do think they can, like, tell a lot of cool stories that might be intriguing to people that only play the single player games. And if you can play a lot of it alone, I think that could help them as well. So we will have to wait and see kind of what the angle for this game is. But if it's just this is the Horizon world, we are going to evolve it over time. Yeah, you can play with friends, but you can also play most of the content alone. We will have new machines. That's already exciting for people. New weapon types, like we've only been using the spear as a melee weapon. But again, now you're talking only about the Horizon fans. I do think there will be some overlap for sure, but it's mostly if they can capture the bigger audience that, again, because it has already been on PC, it's not like they're launching to a new audience like that for the first time. So I don't know, man. It will be hard, but I do think like we can keep speculating about it, but they just have to kind of talk about it. And we, by the way, do have Jeff Grubb here say, I haven't heard anything about a PlayStation showcase or state of play in December. So
and he usually knows. He usually is on
yeah,
to
yeah,
it.
yeah. He is usually the one that also says, "Yo, state of play is happening," and then it always happens. So people are kind of like, "Oh, the December 3rd," but that's just the anniversary day. So I don't think we should read too much into that. Although Game Awards, I do think makes a lot of sense for a game like this. Again, Guerrilla and Sony are very hungry to let more people into the Horizon world, and the online game seems to be their latest attempt. So another PlayStation showcases, I don't think that's where you really want to show this. I do think like a Game Awards makes more sense.
Yeah, and we know that they have a good relationship with Jeff Keighley. They revealed the Lego game at the Summer Game Fest, so I wouldn't
Yeah,
be surprised if they
and
did that.
Burning Shores, the DLC for Forbidden West was not last year but the year before.
Yeah,
So
so they have a relationship at the very least.
yeah.
So I mean, but I do think they got to show it. And that, you're right. I want to be clear about this for everybody. Like, just because they are facing an uphill battle here does not mean like, oh, we'll cancel it now. My point in bringing this stuff up is like the question is whether this should have ever seen like the hundreds of millions of dollars handed to it and the years and years and years spent on this. Like we bring up the example of Concord because that's an example, an extreme example, but that's an example of a project that shouldn't have been greenlit to begin with. Like that was never going to be successful, no matter how much money they threw at it. And anybody who really understood the gaming market could have told you that, or gamers more broadly. My question is just, we don't know what the game is. We haven't seen like gameplay. We haven't seen that, unless Joe Raptor has some breaking news or some insider info. I don't think either of us have seen any extensive looks at this. So we don't know what it really is going to be like.
What there was a leak in 2021 when of course during COVID they were sending out like test kits. I think they were like streaming it through PlayStation Now, so people at home could test Horizon Forbidden West. And on that Decima PlayStation Now test kit that got leaked by, there was like this big Sony leak or hack or something around that time.
Mm-hmm.
So then the Decima engine got hacked as well, including and like yeah, the online project was on there. Again, this is like 3 years ago, but what we saw in that leak was that it was character based. So it seems like they like instead of being this super OP character like Aloy, they are kind of stripping her of her skills and abilities and giving them to unique characters. Of course, like I think really Sony in particular was looking at something like Genshin Impact. I do think it won't be like a gacha game, but we will see. I mean, Aloy is in Genshin, so that kind of shows you also maybe what they were looking at. So it seems like instead of being Aloy or something, like you probably at the start pick one of 4 characters and they're a part of the familiar tribes, and then that character has unique abilities that only that character has, and then you kind of go fight these machines together, and combine the abilities from the different characters together. That seems to be the premise, at least back in 2021, and that's also where that leaked art work came from, which showed they constantly are naming it the stylized look, and that's the wrinkle that I'm the most afraid of. But yeah, we learned from Zero Dawn that they wanted to do co-op in Zero Dawn, but by doing that, they had to lower the quality of the game by 50%. So that shows you that having multiple people run around in that world, in that engine, is causing them issues. So maybe that's why they go for this stylized look, to kind of get away with that.
Without a doubt. I mean, it's the same thing with running like Breath of the Wild on the Switch. Like you're basically running it on a toaster oven. And so the way that they do that is by doing this cell shaded look where they can save, the VRAM needed for high quality textures, because everything is just kind of solid colors, and it can really streamline that, but it ends up looking really well if it's implemented well. With this, it seems like they're going for more of the stylized art, which people will probably point to and say looks like Fortnite based on some of the leaks and stuff we've seen. And it's done to preserve performance, but it still might not. Again, if we talk about potential spillover, if people love the Horizon games for the graphical fidelity, this one will probably not look as good as Burning Shores, for example, because it can't. It's not magic. They're limited if they have more than one player. So I think there's that. I'm excited to see what they're doing, because whatever the concept is, there's a lot of people that have been working on it for a long time, and they are willing to put hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into this project. And I hope it's not a colossal flop. I hope it's not, but it's the story of a lot of these games recently has been, who is this for? Who is this designed to target? Yeah. And the gaming industry, it's not like there's a huge group of millions of players who just have been sitting on the sidelines waiting for a very, very specific thing. Usually you're pulling from other communities, people who are already actively playing other stuff. So it's like, is this pulling from the Horizon crowd? Well, those people, maybe a good chunk of them come over, but they might not be playing this for thousands of hours. They might play it for 30, get through whatever story content and move on. So then who are the live service players you're going after? Well, Monster Hunter fans. Well, they're going to have a Monster Hunter game and probably a big expansion as well coming down the pike. So they probably are not going to be latching onto this. So who else is it? And, you start to get into this spot where you're trying to figure out what Sony is seeing. And sometimes there isn't really an answer. Sometimes the answer is that these companies are just hoping that players connect with it and come out of the woodwork kind of in a surprising way, like a Helldivers 2, where, at least in that case, they didn't spend a ridiculous amount of money on it up front. They didn't really expect it to blow up the way that it did. So it was really successful because they didn't spend all this time and money on it compared to what they've done here. What they've done here is they've spent the amount of money that, like, I by the time this comes out, they probably will have worked on it longer than Rockstar was in development for GTA 6. Which is like full production on GTA 6.
I think they probably, okay, but like the game director, Simon LaRouche is his name. You know what he was working on before this?
Oh no, I'm very curious.
Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy online mode.
Really?
But they it's on his LinkedIn.
So would he have? Who was that being made with? Was that with
Eidos,
Eidos. Oh yeah, so
they made the Guardians of the Galaxy game, but at first seemingly had an online multiplayer mode.
That's so funny. Wow.
But then and before that he was the game director for Watch Dogs 2, and also on the AI and DLC. And
so the last full project he worked on was Watch Dogs 2.
Yeah, and he did also work on Rainbow Six Siege, focused on the esports, team tactics, and live updates as a game director. And he worked on Killzone as well, so he kind of
came full circle.
Yeah,
it's gonna be fascinating. We've got this one is the one I'm actually interested in, like Fair Game $, we make fun of all the time, but we'll see what that looks like. But this one I actually think has a chance at connecting with people, but it's got to be real good. Because, again, live service games are not about getting players to play it for 20, 30 hours. It's about getting people to turn it into part of their routine.
Yeah.
And
it feels like Sony's just still hasn't had a legit success. And I would argue Herman hasn't had a success either. Like, he came in when God of War Ragnarok and Spider-Man 2 and all those games, like, they are just continuations of something someone else started. I think Helldivers 2 really seemed like a stumble and like a, whoa. Nice. Yeah. I can put that on my card as something that I achieved. But Concord was really his thing, and that of course did not work out. And now we have Astrobot. What do you think? Like selling 1.5 million? I thought it was pretty, not a lot for the 65 million PS5s that are out there. But
I think a lot of people I like Astrobot, but it's good, it's fun. But it's not really as satisfying as like a big standalone single player title.
And I think Astro's Playroom might have heard it, because that game, like, actually a lot of people went back to just play that one because that's free and it's already on your console.
Yeah.
So they're like, Okay, what is the new, like, similar to Nintendo not launching a Smash Brothers, or like another 3D Mario on the same console, because then people will just get the older one. Like, why? They're like, hey, we already have a Mario Kart. Why would I get the new one?
Yeah.
Um, so
I
maybe that did not help either. But
I do think there is a bit of pressure there, because for people that might be confused in chat, I see a couple of people that seem to misunderstand. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jor, but what I understand you to be saying is that Herman has not had one of his projects blow up to
that
be
he
a big
greenlit,
success.
yeah, that he greenlit, and that he was at the, yeah, and right now he's kind of. I mean, Ghost of Yota is their biggest success this year in terms of reveal and everyone being happy about it. And yeah, again, that is a sequel. Like, that's a sure bet. Like, he was hired, he was brought forward to lead this new initiative. Like, he's also talking about the mobile games. Like, that's also some. Like, he has to make sure that the console business will stay, and hopefully for Sony for a long time. But they kind of nailed that already. His job is to extend the audience, to make sure that there are more people engaging with the PlayStation properties, and one way to do that is the TV. And sure, the HBO show has done really well. But yeah, what's after that? Like, so far they have had one hit, and you cannot really pinpoint if it was mostly him in charge for that, right? And Concord was actually, according to rumors, and we have him in the press releases all the time. Sure, he was still under Jim Ryan at the point, although he was the head of PlayStation Studios. Now he's like really the CEO of all the gaming stuff they are doing. So we'll have to wait and see. It's gonna be interesting. So that's kind of what I mean. But one more question before we move on is, like, what would you have done if you were in his position? Like, if you had that portfolio that Sony has, and yeah, Jim Ryan and like people in charge, like even higher up at Sony, were like, these live service games are doing great. Single player games are costing more and more to make. We need to get in on this. Give us 16 or like 12 games they ended up with, games to be able to compete in this space. And I think because they kind of got desperate, they were looking around and being like, oh, this is a team with Bungie veterans and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, of course, back then it looked even worse than Concord turned out. But maybe the game director was like, I watched that video where they were like, we have such an innovative system. It's called Squad or something. And then you have one extra grenade as a character. It's mind blowing. Like, maybe they were really good at selling it. I still think Herman should have been like, what the heck is this? But I do think he also had to come back to his boss and be like, here, this is what I got. And yeah, we have to, let's move forward with that.
Yeah. The piece of this that's important to know before I get into it is just that we don't know what we don't know. So it could be that the pitch for the Horizon game is way more compelling than just Fortnite painted Horizon with a Monster Hunter focus. It could be way more interesting, way more compelling than that. We just don't know what that is. So I want to be clear about that as I talk about this, assuming it is what we understand it to be, assuming it is a sort of cartoony art styled Horizon game that's a co-op game where you go and you fight monsters together to level up a base maybe that you share or whatever. I don't think that concept is good enough to warrant 7 years of development and hundreds of millions of dollars. So to me, I would not have greenlit this or carried it forward to this point. I would have either required them to cut scope and it would have been out a year or two ago to start building the audience and growing it, or I would have canned it and looked for a more compelling idea. It's true, like, they should want to compete in the live service space, but I think the lesson of Concord and of all these other failed games like Lawbreakers years ago is that you cannot just put out something familiar and hope that your old fans come in and play, like Rocksteady trying to make a looter shooter. That doesn't really work. Just because you made a game that people liked, they won't just follow you over here. Even if it's kind of vaguely familiar, you need to have a compelling concept and the game has to be really, really good. And even then it might still fail. And my frustration with PlayStation so far in their live service pursuits is that it really is, we joke about them just throwing crap at the wall and seeing what sticks. In reality, like, they are very carefully choosing what they throw at the wall, trying to get something that will stick. So it's not like just grabbing a bunch of stuff and throwing it. They're trying to craft something that will stick. But they have demonstrated time and time again, like, they really have no idea what is going to stick. Like, they got really lucky with Helldivers 2. And the fact that they were so shocked at its success is quite funny. But I think that that's my problem with it, is that they're spending billions and they really don't seem to have a clear idea of what will be a success and what won't be. They are very confident in this, spending a lot of money on it. But again, like, they say they're very confident about Fair Game $. They say they're very confident about Concord. And so if I were at the helm, I would just really be pushing for novel, unique ideas. And I just haven't seen a lot about this that seems super novel or unique, or like it's going to stand out in a very crowded 2025 lineup.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's not helping them either. Like, this year we already had quite some major flops. But next year it will be even worse, for sure.
Oh yeah, next year, I think it's important for us to say this before we shift gears. Like, this year, lots of games lost money. Next year, there will be some behemoths. There's more blockbusters next year than this year, for sure. Maybe than the last 2 years combined next year. It's crazy. And those tend to cannibalize sales of smaller, like, more AA style games, lower budget stuff. So there's going to be a lot of games next year that are flopping and a lot that are doing exceptionally well. I don't think there's going to be a lot of okay performers. It's either going to be a blowout success or a total flop while people wait for a sale or to finish another game. But
yeah, for sure. Like, I think, like you said, a lot of games will kind of get like really a ton of success. I think we can already point at Monster Hunter Wilds. Of course, that beta was insane. Crimson Desert, I'm expecting big things from that. Obviously, the Mafia game will probably do well if it's a good game. Like, I don't think they're like that. That seems like more of a smaller project. I'm sure that will be fine. Borderlands 4 will likely be huge. GTA 6, obviously. If Battlefield is launching, that could be big as well, but that's already like way more AAA huge games than we saw this year. I think like a studio like Don't Not, like with their Broom and Rage, like something like that, will be hard. And I do think like something like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I do think that will probably be seen as a success, but I think it could have been way better or way bigger in a better time. And you know what also could be bigger at a better time? Avowed. And there's an extra Phil Spencer interview. Did you see the one from GameFile already?
No, I just saw the Bloomberg one.
Can you, if you go to this link, can you click on it? Does it work for you? Because I'm subscribed to GameFile from Steven Totillo. Of course, the editor-in-chief first of Kotaku, and now he says kind of his own thing. He was at another like big publication as well. Can you read it?
Yeah, let's see. Let me turn it on. Okay, interview. Microsoft's Phil Spencer has a lot to say about Xbox's game lineup. Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer was in Manhattan this week, and he had some time in his schedule. Excellent. I wanted to talk about the company's late 2024 gaming slate. Spencer and I last spoke in February about Xbox games going to PlayStation and Switch, about Microsoft's gaming layoffs, about the future of disk drives on consoles. This conversation would be a bit different. Yes, we could talk platform strategy again, but I wanted to talk games and find out the thinking behind one of the richer and at times eyebrows-raising gaming lineups that Microsoft has produced in recent years. So I downloaded an image to my phone that showed a grid of 13 logos, 13 of the biggest upcoming games from Microsoft's development teams and publishing group. Microsoft had posted it in August. I hopped on a train to the city, sat down with Spencer at a hotel restaurant in Midtown, loaded the image on my phone, and slid it over to him to discuss. We had plenty to talk about, so much so that I'll be running this conversation into two parts. In today's, we
Yeah.
cover the surprising number of PC-only games from Microsoft this fall and why it's an anomaly, his word. Microsoft's delay of Avowed to 2025, a window into how they're pacing releases for Game Pass and using the time to polish those games. This season's abundance of expansions and some feedback he and Bethesda's Todd Howard are chewing on about Starfield Shattered Space. Ooh, baby. The company's big plans with Play Anywhere, one recent release where they didn't get that right, and the incoming support for for buying games for the cloud, and the presence of Stalker 2 in the overall holiday lineup, and the absence of Black Myth, Wukong, and more. Ooh, baby.
You know what? One thing that you will like. So about the Starfield thing, if we jump to that, Todd and I were talking about Shattered Space. Starfield is a game that I put a ton of hours into, really love. But they've had this thing where they've added features throughout the year, and then they had an expansion. I think some of the feedback on the expansion is we wanted more features. And he's like, well, should we have waited to put the buggies out? And so I think you're trying to tune both development efforts and the impact of the expansion. And I think there will always be a balance to managing the game month to month, but not every game will do expansions. So that was basically, Stephen asking, hey Phil, will most games get expansions? Because again, they had the World of Warcraft expansion, of course, Diablo expansion, Starfield expansion, very close to each other. Now that Microsoft owns Activision Blizzard. But yeah, what do you think? Should they have saved the buggies? Would that have saved Shattered Space?
I think the problem is, like, Shattered Space doesn't have anything that really uses the buggies. Like, there's a couple things, but I think it would have been like, okay, so you have a buggy and there's nothing to really do with it. Like, they would have needed to put in like races or something, you know. Kojima did that with the director's edition of or the director's cut of Death Stranding, where like randomly in a part of the map there's a racing track you can build. It's really random and weird, and like the cars control terribly, but it's in the game. So there's that. But yeah, I don't know if that would have fixed it. But it also, I mean, it's kind of an admittance that there really is not much there.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we should have just delayed it and combined stuff so it felt bigger. That's funny.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's interesting. And about the Black Myth Wukong stuff. Do you know if you're getting Black Myth Wukong on Xbox at some point? I do know. Are you getting it? I can't announce that.
Huh.
Yeah, basically. Or is it really that Sony deal? It's like it has been like one of the weirder stories this year.
It feels to me that they really should be legally required to disclose if there's an exclusive agreement. Am I crazy for thinking that? It feels like if you signed a deal where your game does not go to another place because you signed the deal and are getting paid for it, there should be some disclosure of that to the public. It's insane to me that there's still a question. There's still a debate.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know.
It's weird. About the Avowed, then earlier this year, Microsoft said that Avowed, a new fantasy role-playing game from Obsidian, would release in this fall. Then in August, it was pushed back to February. Publicly, Microsoft framed it as a relief for players who were facing an avalanche of games. Internally, Spencer told me they delayed it because when you have an avalanche of games, you might want to postpone a game, and it can help. We can afford it when we have the Diablo expansion, then Black Ops, then Indiana Jones, of course. He denied that it was because the game was in bad shape. We did not move it because Obsidian needed more time. They will use the time. But yeah, then still, of course, I noted that Avowed's new release month, February 2025, is filling up with Assassin's Creed Shadows and other big games. Maybe we could do a better job pacing with some of our third-party friends, says Phil Spencer, because we all want them to be successful.
It's like, and I want them to get the hell away from my release. God damn it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna move, but come on, guys, we should all not do this to each other. But I'm not gonna move.
Yeah, we're not moving. What do you think Avowed turns out to be as, by the way? I've seen some people think that's going to be one of the smash hits of the year.
Oh, no.
Like, I think it's going to be my gut is telling me there's something funky there.
I think it will be fun for the people that are already on board, but it could have been. I think they should have put that in the January spot. Like I think that would have been perfect. Like if it turned out to be better, then I think it is going to be. Um, yeah, then more people would have tried it. But right now, like I do think Microsoft is in an interesting position where they, of course, don't have another Game Pass title in February, even though February is very big. So that might, yeah, force them to still launch it if they want something big every month. Like they want to hold on to the Black Ops people, of course, in particular. So I don't know, but I'm not seeing that game do very well, and I think it would be wild if you have Assassin's Creed Shadows, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, Monster Hunter Wilds. You have the Like a Dragon game. Like you have
Mhm.
so many games, and that you then go for Avowed. I mean,
It's
more
just
power
there's
to
only
you,
so
of
many
course.
hours in
But
the day. That's the
yeah,
problem. Is
exactly.
it's like I just had a call with my team yesterday, and I told them like we're gonna have to be very precise with what we choose to cover and play and not play because, um, like the number of big games that are coming out early next year is crazy. Like it's just so insane. So like, do you really? Right here we've got. Oh no, this is 2024. I saw on the list it
One.
said Suicide Squad, and I was like, not again. But no, it's okay.
I mean, to be fair, my prediction for that game, they are totally gonna do like a complete edition or something with that offline mode, and then be like, "Here, please pay us $30," and for
Probably,
all the
yeah.
content.
I mean, I half expect them to get this final season out and then just totally can
No
it and walk
offline
away.
mode.
I think they said that they were working on it and it would be out sometime this year. And the fact that there still is like no word about it, there's nothing said. I think it's pretty telling.
I mean,
Um,
I think it makes sense for them to do that when all the content is over, because I think this offline mode is probably going to, if they were still launching content, it will probably make sure that people just like steal all the outfits in the shop and all that sort of stuff. So maybe that's like that's mostly one of the reasons why all these live service games don't do an offline mode, because yeah, it's way less protected than if
yeah,
people can just go into the files
they
and
should do what they did for the Avengers game, where they just do a final like it's for sale for $2.
yeah.
Everything's unlocked. You can buy it and then they shut it down. Because I mean, what's more amazing, I'm still impressed. Right now, it's at 140 in-game players. Like, there's still 140 people out there playing this. That's crazy to
I
me.
mean, sometimes I get like one of the Reddit posts promoted, and you see people that are like grinding that leaderboard and putting like thousands of hours into this game.
Yeah, I would love to know
Yeah.
what the what and like the median hours, because like the average is swayed by those people, but the median just tells you where the middle is for that. I would guess the median playtime is like 10 hours, 11 hours, but I think some of these people, like you said, are racking up thousands and thousands and
Here,
thousands of
what?
hours.
Here, the first thing that I'm looking at, I typed in hour in the search bar for the Suicide Squad Reddit. What's everyone's hours like? And this person plays on PS5. 1,894 hours. I'm like, what are you doing in
And
this
what do you
game?
even do for that much time? Like, I just don't know how people's brains allow them to grind something that heavily. Like, that's crazy.
And I love how the comments are like, he thought he was like flexing, right? He was like, everyone is gonna love this.
Yeah.
Dude spent that much time on literally one of the worst games of the last few years.
Dude, that's like so much. That's crazy. 18, almost 1900 hours. Like, no joke. If he was sitting in his chair nonstop, no sleep, playing Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, that is over 79 days of nonstop playing that day in, day out. How do you hit that? Jor, you have 2,000 hours in Valhalla. I think Jor said, yeah, isn't it 4 digits? Aren't you past 1,000?
Yeah, no, on my PlayStation it says 2,000 hours, but to be fair, it is like a lot of idle. Like when I make videos, the game of course stays on. Um, like my saves are at around 500 hours. So if you like get the playtime,
Yeah.
which still a lot, I know, but I played that game for 3 years.
I'll say for some sim games, I'll leave my computer running overnight to just crank up the currency generation.
Oh
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
guilty of that. I remember back when I was a kid playing like Thrillville. Did you ever play that?
Thrillville.
Thrillville. Yeah, look at this. Oh man, it's on Steam? Dude, I need to play this again. Yeah, I used to play Thrillville all the time, and it's this like amusement park simulator kind of game where you can make your own theme park. It's a really good time, but I remember playing this and you could leave it running and you would just continue to make more and more money from it as, you know, more people came to the park and did that. They didn't have a lot of dynamic
But it was a
events.
blockchain game.
No, that would be funny. It was blockchain before blockchain. But I would leave this playing for hours on end overnight, but it would go into idle if you left it. So I got a rubber band and I held down the joystick and wrapped it around the controller. So the character would just run in circles all night long and I would just rake in the money and stuff.
I remember people doing that for other games as well, where you had like to. I think Smash Bros was one of those games where you had to play for a certain amount to unlock certain characters or something. There was something like that where people would also like do crazy things, so they were still moving because otherwise they would be kicked out of the game.
Yeah.
If they,
Yeah, I've heard that's a problem in a lot of those like big MMOs because it was also a problem with there was one big MMO recently. Was it something for WoW maybe? But there were problems with others where like it was really hard to get into the game and so you'd have to sit in the queue for like 4 hours and people didn't want to be kicked out of the queue while they slept. So they would just do something like that where they had like a little robot made out of Lego NZXT whatever or NXT I think is what they called it, and they would just press buttons in a random order so you'd move and it wouldn't catch you. And yeah, people go hard for games. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Luke the Hustle Stevens. Yeah, exactly. When it comes to my theme park in Thrillville, yeah, you're damn right I hustled. Look at that. Oh, it was so cool.
Sounds like a mobile game, man. Thrillville.
Thrillville. It was literally you just make your own theme park and then manage it. And it's a good time. It's like a really dumbed down, more kid-friendly Planet Coaster. That was also on console, so I could play it.
Nice.
Those were the days.
Want me to quickly go over the 2025 games because that's where we were kind of looking at, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I got a list here with like the big titles. Of course, like January is kind of dry. You have the Dynasty Warriors game. Freedom Wars Remastered will turn 1 or 2 heads. Spider-Man 2 is of course coming to PC at the end of January. But then February is crazy. So 11th, you have Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Civilization 7 is also on the 11th.
Oh, God.
Assassin's Creed Shadows is on the 14th.
Mm-hmm.
Avowed is on the 18th. Lost Records Bloom and Rage is also on the 18th. Monster Hunter Wilds is on the 28th. And Like a Dragon, I think, was on the 21st. So that's all in like 2 weeks.
Man.
2.5 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think Avowed stands a chance. Like being a Game Pass title, it'll be fine. Like a month later, it'll maybe pick up. But I was telling my team like yesterday, if I decide to go all in on Kingdom Come, like we probably don't have time to review Assassin's Creed at the same time because AC Shadows is probably also like a 60, 70, 80-hour game.
Oh, easily.
And so like, and Kingdom Come is going to be up there too. So like reviewing Kingdom Come probably means you're not reviewing Assassin's Creed and vice versa. So you got to pick your battles.
Kingdom Come, they of course delayed as well. Like we don't know if it was because they wanted to move out of the crowded. I think Kingdom Come would have been perfect like this week or something. So it's kind of sad that they delayed, but maybe they needed more time as well. But so maybe like it depends also on when you get the code. Of course, I think Assassin's Creed is 1 week before. Or maybe hopefully a bit earlier, but I think Kingdom Come being February 11, maybe you can already play a lot in end of January. It's still not ideal, for sure. Like especially because they're all like enormous RPGs. It's not like Lego Horizon that you finish in a day.
That's the tricky part is that these are not games you're finishing in a couple days. Like these are games you have to commit weeks to. And if it, like for me, we still stream and stuff. And this is kind of the tricky spot I've been caught in, and you guys who watch have probably noticed a couple times where like if I'm reviewing something, all of a sudden the streams are getting like a little shorter, because if I'm not allowed to disclose that I'm reviewing something, I'm like, I gotta hop off stream, immediately start playing it again and grind out some more, and then come back on stream and act like everything was normal, because I'm not allowed to say I'm reviewing the game until this day, and then I can say that I've been working through it. And so it's just really, really tricky. But it's why like big companies like IGN will have multiple reviewers. They'll have, you know, this person play this game, this person play this game. They make their own reviews, but it's all under the IGN banner. But when you're an individual, it's like there's only so many hours in the day. Like I don't think it's mathematically possible to play through Kingdom Come and Shadows.
The last big review you did, was it Shattered Space?
Review? Yeah. Well, we didn't, like, they didn't send out review codes for that, but I did do a review for that. As for like review code, it was probably Star Wars, I think.
Oh yeah, but that was August, man.
Yeah.
I see it, yeah.
Yeah, they got really the only other one that's come out since then was like Dragon Age, and they didn't send out hardly any review codes for that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, crazy. Yeah,
Metaphor, Metaphor I also didn't get a review code for, but Metaphor is another example of one of those where it's like they'd have to send that code 2 weeks ahead of time for me to finish it, like no lifing it for most of the time, because that's also a huge game.
Maybe an idea to like make a 30-minute review instead of an hour.
Yeah, that would help probably. But more than anything, it's the freaking playtime. We can get an hour video put together in a day, but it's the freaking like
these games are huge.
Yeah, because you can't fake the playtime. You know, you can't streamline the playtime. You can't get your editors to you know speed through that. Like you either play the game or you don't, and that's the bit that takes a lot.
So do you already want to share a bit with what are the games are that you are looking into, or do you want to keep that more of a secret?
For reviewing, I mean, we're trying to review Indiana Jones. We've sent emails.
Yeah,
we'll see if that happens. I would not be surprised if we're not on the list, because the last couple of Xbox things I covered, I was not a fan of. Shattered Space, Hellblade 2, I thought was super disappointing, and Starfield, of course. So I wouldn't be surprised if I'm not super high on the list there, but maybe that works out. As for February, I'm going back and forth because I love Kingdom Come, but I also have talked about Assassin's Creed for years and years, so I feel like I should probably cover AC, and then Kingdom Come is the sort of back burner game.
Yeah, or depends on if you get Kingdom Come first. Again, I think they might be in a great spot where they really took that time to just polish it up, and maybe have something ready end of January already.
Yeah. So there's that. I think I will talk about Avowed. Whether I'll play through all of it, remains to be seen. I would love to talk about Monster Hunter more, but Monster Hunter is just one of those games where, for whatever reason, it's like JRPGs. The audience on YouTube just isn't that compelled by it. They just aren't like.
I mean, you still see it. Like the numbers are crazy.
Numbers are crazy, but I think that's the thing is people who like those games know they like it. They don't need to watch videos on it. They want to play it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, same with like, you know, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. You know, it's a huge game, but everybody knows that they like it or knows that they don't like it. Like,
and that is even like more spoiler heavy as well. So like any footage you show is already kind of considered a spoiler for that game. So that didn't help it either. But yeah, you do have some time after Monster Hunter Wilds. Like looking at March, it's like the Lost Records Part 2. Tales of the Shire.
Ooh, baby!
Atomfall should launch in March, weirdly enough.
Oh yeah, that's that really trippy one
from the Sniper Elite people
that everybody thought looked just like Atomic Heart.
Oh yeah, in a way, yeah. But I think there are more. Like I think them like doing the previews for South of Midnight right now kind of tells me that's probably March, right? Because
I
yeah,
have to think that that's earlier. Yeah, I think you're right because they're starting to rev that up. The footage they showed looks very, very polished,
yeah,
and
I
they
think
stress that it's
yeah.
only 10 hours long. Like it's going to be pretty lean.
What?
Yeah,
You know what the last game was that team made?
We Happy Few,
When did that came out?
2016, I think.
Yes. What the heck, man?
Yeah,
This is kind of
it's
like Hellblade all over again, right?
well. Did
Like,
they
is
do
that
any like live service stuff in between? Because at least they had that excuse. Oh, did they? No, and not Xbox Studios. I want to know Compulsion
Compulsion?
Games.
Like, I think that studio is gone after this, man. I don't know.
It looks beautiful, but it also they only have 80
7
employees.
years. Oh no, wait. Huh? Oh, huh? Why did
I think they
those Wikipedia
relaunched.
says?
Oh yeah, We Happy Few did early access in 2016, full launch in
In 2018
2018.
it's when yeah.
Still though,
Still
7
7
years.
years.
Yeah.
And that game, I mean, nobody's gonna buy it. I'm sorry. It looks cool.
It looks beautiful, but I agree that for $70,
And then you're
10
gonna
hours.
greenlight another game that will take another 7 years. So then, like, what is the strategy?
Yeah, I think they gotta figure it out. I don't know. Maybe there's some interesting like behind the scenes stuff because that was the whole thing. People forgot about that with Ninja Theory,
Oh
but
yeah, the
Ninja Theory didn't actually like spend
Bloody
that many
Edge or
years on it.
something?
Yeah, they
Bloody
had
Edge,
their
Edge of
Bleeding Edge. Yeah,
a Bleeding Edge.
they did Bleeding Edge. They shut down support for it a year later. They tried to turn it into a live service studio. It didn't work out. And so they abandoned it. And then they went back to working on Hellblade 2. So in reality, they worked on Senua Saga Hellblade 2 for like 2.5 years. 2.5, 3 years. And then it makes a lot more sense why it's so small. It clicks together. But, you know, it's with this, I'm not sure what their excuse is. If it's really, really polished up, if it's really an awesome 10 hours, great. But it is crazy to spend 7 years for 10 hours. And they're already kind of starting to brace people saying stuff like, it's, gameplay is not our top priority. Our top priority is the story and the music and art direction and stuff. And it's like, yeah, we can tell, but it's also like, I would hope that you wouldn't have to start defending yourself before the game even comes out, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I made like a very funny, if I say so. Like one of the funniest things to do is there are on Twitter some of these like console warriors, and there was someone saying they were like making a video from Hellblade 2 and then saying, "Look at this, how amazing this game looks." I have it here. Uh, PS5 Pro can't even compete with the Xbox Series S, and then they show Hellblade 2 running on Xbox Series S. I'm gonna send you the link. And then I was like, we will find out next year when Hellblade 2 launches on PS5. And that person was like, even if it did, it still won't have true fear. Like these people, like I don't know how you can be such a
It's so sad, man. It's so sad. And like I've played the game again. People freaked out when I said I accidentally finished Shattered Space. People freaked out when I said I was really disappointed with Hellblade 2. But then everybody plays it and they're like, yeah, well, it doesn't matter because like it was because of like the art. It's like it's just so sad. Like it's okay to be more critical. It's okay. It doesn't mean that you're a hater. It means that you're trying to honestly reflect and report on what you think of this stuff. And yeah, you're like, this is a very funny tweet. And then he replies, even if it won't have VRR, achievements, quick resume, auto, HDR, Game Pass availability, or an Xbox controller. Like, it's like, bro, not everything is a competition. Not everything is about, like, sometimes you can just be like, yeah, no, fair. Yep. Whatever. The Xbox fanboy thing is just the most brain rot heavy, like, dumbery. But you see it all the time. Like some of these Xbox fanboys that were defending like Redfall, saying that Redfall was slated to become like the next big thing. This could take on the biggest games in the industry and all that, and it ends up being a total disaster. It's just so
Yeah.
dumb.
And
But
and we know of like today also Phil Spencer. There is no red line for which games will come to PlayStation. Like it's happening. It's happening next year. Starfield, all the games are coming.
yeah, I think they're gonna go into overdrive. I'm after he said that, when he also specifically said that it was too early to decide if they were gonna bring Halo to PlayStation. I was like, okay, if that's not even like the red line, if you're saying even Halo could end up on PlayStation 5, anything can and will.
Yeah.
Like if Halo is on the table, Starfield's on the table, Elder Scrolls 6
Yeah,
is on the
and
table. Like,
they saw it with Call of Duty now. Like they got what they wanted. They got more Game Pass subscribers on Xbox. On PlayStation, the sales even increased. So, yeah, they saw people are not jumping ship for one game, and yeah, people on Xbox are not buying games at all. So let's just go where people actually buy games. It
yeah,
only makes sense.
they can't get people to leave the platform that they've committed to, so go to the platform where they're on and sell them stuff there. Like, it's really, really simple. But this is why it's so stupid when people are like, yeah, well, they're still down console sales. They don't care. It's about Game Pass. Like,
Yeah,
Microsoft
I mean
doesn't
they don't
care.
care because
Yeah, they
they
don't care if
lose.
you're using Microsoft Word on a Mac. You're still using Microsoft Word. They probably prefer you're using it on a Windows device, but they still are getting to you if you're subscribed to their Microsoft plan through Mac or your iPhone or whatever. They don't care. They're still getting paid. And I just think that that's such a fundamental shift for a lot of these like people who are the most diehard console fans that it just doesn't compute. It's really fascinating to watch everybody squirm, but you're not playing Elder
Yeah.
Scrolls 6 on a PS5. It won't be out until at least 2028, I guarantee you. I mean, I think they might be targeting a cross-generational release window for that one because I think they need that to blow up. And let's be honest, I don't think they're going to push the technical boundary that much with that game. So I think it probably would be capable of cross-platform, cross-generational, whatever.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
I'm
Anything
not
else you
like
want to run through?
yeah. Yeah, I think we kind of covered those things a bit. Yeah, we said the no showcase probably as well. So I think the rest of the year, yeah, Indiana Jones, like Stalker is next week. Not sure if you're gonna do something with that, but it might hopefully be better than what we played. So I'm happy if that's the case.
Yeah, I've tried to stress
Phil,
to people, like, we played a demo of the game and everybody I spoke to who played that demo said it was a bad demo. Does that mean the
yeah,
game is therefore bad? No, it means it's a badass demo. Like, not a badass demo, but like a bad freaking demo. The final game could be really, really good, but what we played was bad. And there's
yeah,
just our biggest complaint was what we played was nothing like what we saw in the trailers. It was an older build or it was a different build or whatever. So my hope is just that the final product matches those trailers because those trailers look awesome. The gameplay trailers look great. But what we played when we actually got our hands on it was not on that level. And that's why we were
yeah,
frustrated. But what's tricky is that we're not allowed to show you the footage of what we played. And so you just have to kind of listen to us describe like terrible screen tearing and bugs and stuff. And it's just too bad. But I also understand why they run it that way. Let's catch
yeah.
up on these super chats real quick.
Oh yeah.
Zoob, thank you for that. I like my enemy AI to be like myself, incompetent. Hell yeah, you're going to love Star Wars Outlaws. So Maya, thank you for that one. I'm looking forward to all of the to how all the teenagers die in the competition in Lego Horizon. How do they handle that? Have you gotten there?
Yeah. It's there's nothing like that. So they really changed a lot of things in terms of the story. So you still get from beat to beat, but how you get there, like how Ross dies at the start, it's super weird. And because he's the narrator, they're like, but he lives on in your head. And then Aloy starts talking to him. I still hear you. Well, it's super weird. They're like TNT boxes, and they blow up. And yeah, Ross tries to save Aloy, and yeah, that's kind of it. There are no kids that are dying. You can again like pick people up and throw them off the ledge. That's the most horrible thing you can do in that game. But in terms of the cutscenes and stuff, nothing weird going on.
Joe
It's
Raptor gives it a 6 out of
very child
10.
free.
Not enough dead kids. There you go. You heard it here first, guys. Blake, thank you for that 5. Where would you guys like to see the next Horizon game take place, both for tribes and just geography? Not saying the Osram homes is weird. Where would I like to see the next one take? I mean, we did kind of the Midwest, and then they moved to, or the Rocky Mountains, and then we moved to the coast. Next would be like, honestly, if they went to like, not just to bring up south of midnight again, but if they went to like the south, the deep south, like Louisiana with the swamps and stuff, that could be kind of cool.
I think they are probably because we of course have that tribe at the Quen tribe at the end. They like leave on a ship. So I think like Asia would be kind of cool to go there.
It's probably
And
what
then
they're
see
doing, yeah.
Yeah.
See
I
like
think that's-
old dilapidated Japan or
Yeah.
somewhere
Yeah,
like that.
and maybe to space.
Yeah.
That
Aloy
would
on
be
the
kinda
moon. Yeah.
I think actually, well, wild prediction. I think Aloy is dying like in the first hour, like Joel style, and then you play like a beta or like they're going maybe in a different direction.
I would love that, but I don't think they're going to do that. I think they'll probably give her like the big Mary Sue send off at the very end of it, and she'll sacrifice herself like Bruce Willis on the asteroid at the end of Armageddon. I think it'll be something like that. You can destroy the evil AI, but you have to stay behind. I'll do it. You don't have to do it. I will do it because I am brave, and everybody.
I am
will snap
designed
in
for
agreement.
this. This was my purpose.
Yep. I think that's it.
Yeah, probably.
I think that's how they're going to do it. Calling it now. Let's see. Where else were we? Blake, thank you for another one. I like Horizon and I'll play the main games, but I don't like it. But I don't like it to the point of buying all these spin-off games, and I'm sure many are in the same boat.
Yeah, 100% because they're not selling well.
Yeah, I think the fact they're not selling well and they're not being received super well.
The Steam numbers, the concurrent for the Lego game, I think Gorilla wish they would be private. I really think it's gonna be like in the low thousands.
You think it's low?
Like in the like a 3,000 max. Like not a good.
What I was surprised at is like looking at some of these reviews. Like, where's the IGN review of it? The videos on this are not really popping off,
No,
like
at all.
Like 13,000 views for the IGN official review of the game in 4 hours.
Really bad.
Like, people just don't care. And this is what I've been saying is it's fine if you love Horizon, if you like the Horizon games, but it's so clear that like the franchise is not on that level that Sony's treating it like it is at, like they're treating it as though it's a Star Wars level thing where you can do all these spin-offs and weird like spin-offs, but it just isn't there yet, and the audience is just not there. And for a lot of people, it's starting to get them fatigued on it, where they're like, bro, chill, like we really don't care that much. And it's I don't know if it's turning people off, but it's not turning them on at the very least.
I was surprised by the amount of people that were interested in the Zero Dawn remaster. That was way more than I anticipated, because if you look at those videos, they were popping off. They did very well.
I saw people were interested in seeing the differences and changes, but do you think that converts to sales and purchases? Like,
I don't know, but I always still believe that the Zero Dawn remaster was more for new people, just like the Lego Horizon game. But it does show me like if you remastered a game that people like in a series that people did not care about, then I still don't think people would be interested in the comparisons. So I do think that shows you something. But Zero Dawn is kind of there, like that is kind of a game on its own. Like that's kind of what the series is for many people. And yeah, they just haven't been able to capitalize on that, because yeah, Forbidden West, I like it a lot in terms of like gameplay improvements, but the story was totally yeah, way less impactful and interesting. So that is kind of sad. But I really hope they leave Zero Dawn behind because it's crazy, man. Has it ever happened that there are basically two remakes of the same story, like 3 weeks apart or 2 weeks apart? Like never happened, I think.
I don't think so. But it's another affirmation of that. Like, who greenlit that? It's like Herman and his crew when they thought that they were going to have a show coming out around this time and that it would be such a huge blowout success that they're like, we need a Lego game to appeal to the kids that watch the show, and we need the remake to appeal to, or remaster to appeal to the adults that are going to want to buy it and play it. Then we need to do all this other stuff where we also have these other projects lined up. We have the VR game coming out, of course. They had all this stuff set up, and it's just not there. Like, it just isn't. And I think they could get there, but you can't force people to fall in love with a franchise. You can't force people to fall in love with a character. You got to wait for that to happen organically. And if you try too hard to make it a thing, it starts to turn people off.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's just overall like the thing that is really like what's really happening right now is that instead of making some like one piece of media, so a TV show, a book, first, they're immediately already thinking like 5 steps ahead. And when it does pop off, that is nice that you already have been working on that, so people don't have to wait that long. But there have been like not a lot of examples where that actually worked out. I think it's way smarter to release something first that people actually really want more of, and then give that to them, and that they've actually been asking for it. But yeah, right now they're creating. I think like I'm scared for like Astrobot again, 1.5 million. Like Horizon is not gonna do more. I think that game is gonna bomb.
Yeah, I think Lego Horizon bombs. I just, you can usually get a pretty good idea of whether people are interested or at least aware of it based on like the IGN review, just because it's the most recognizable like review site. It's really easy to just quickly type in IGN, name of the game, see what it kind of looks like, and then laugh that they gave it a 7 out of 10 again. And with this to only be at 12,000 after 4 hours, that's really surprising to me. Like, I was considering making a video on it. After I see those numbers, I'm not touching the damn thing. Like,
oh really? Where are you gonna do it? Like I did a stream, and yeah, that's all I was gonna do on it.
I thought maybe there could be something funny where we talk about the state of Horizon, where we look at the show, where we talk about the Lego game, the remaster, and then also the online game that's coming, and we get just kind of talk about the state of the franchise overall. But I think I've got to wait till there's some new tidbit about the multiplayer game.
Again, I think Game Awards might be it.
Yeah.
I just hope in my heart that it won't be your next Suicide Squad or Concord.
Yeah, what is that going to be like if it's so bad that it's really good? It's just so funny. What are we going to do? The show's going to be so awkward.
No, I think it will actually be interesting.
I think it'd be really funny because I think we'll be able to talk about it. Because correct me if I'm wrong, I don't like, you're not a big MMO like multiplayer live service guy. You're not playing a lot. I used
to be, but I'm not anymore. No.
Yeah, so like I don't really foresee a world in which like you start no-lifing Horizon and you're like, yep, I've got.
No, there is a chance because I'm also looking at from a content angle, and I do like my favorite type of content to make is the post-launch for games, and that's why I like the Assassin's Creed series, what they're doing with the single player as well. Like I love when a new update comes out to figure out what they all added. Hey, maybe there's a secret thing they changed. Oh, there's a new activity coming. Like that's very specific, but I like that to be really in depth on certain games. And yeah, I think the Horizon online game, if it pops off, that could be really cool. But yeah, we will have to wait and see. I don't like the fact where I'm like, I have to team up with people at 8 o'clock in the evening to do this raid boss. Like I'm kind of over that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I'm thoroughly intrigued. If I had to put money on it being a success or a failure, I'd put money on it not working out. But just based on the state of the industry at the moment, I think. But I of course would hope that they can surprise us and pull something out that's amazing. But I've not, from what I understand of the game, it's not there.
I mean, as like a huge fan of this series, I can only be. It does seem like they're trying their best and trying everything they can to make it work. And even if I'm not like I did not need the Lego game, playing it does make me happy. Like I love that story. I love that world. So seeing the Lego pieces, like the machines, how they created those, that's awesome. But so I'm kind of like torn. I don't want them to screw it up, but I do think they will at least try their best and not half-ass it. So I think that would have been worse, where they were like, okay, let's
this
see.
is not going to be a phoned-in live service game where they're just rushing it. Really seems like they're pouring everything into it.
But that's why I'm surprised. Like every time I tweet about it or something, and I've done it a couple of times, everyone is like hearing it, like they're surprised. What? There's a whole Horizon Online game coming. Like, it has been in the works for 7 years.
Yeah. That's why the marketing approach has been so interesting, because with Bungie, they've been talking about Marathon for years now, and they're just going to start ramping it up here pretty soon. But they've taken the polar opposite approach with this Horizon game, which is what's so fascinating, because it really seems like Bungie is taking an approach of like, get it out there, people talk about it, we'll do open betas, we'll kind of build the community as we rev up. Whereas Guerrilla is taking this approach of, I think, treating it much more like a standard Horizon game, where they're going to announce it, reveal it, showcase it, put it out there pretty soon after. And I don't know if one's more successful than the other. I get the feeling there's something about that Horizon game we don't know. I get the feeling like there's more to it than the elevator pitch we've heard. I imagine it's more than just Fortnite Monster Hunter.
I think it's gonna be like way bigger than people expect when they kind of hear it.
I'm expecting it to be way more narrative focused. Whether like a hero character based narrative game finds success, I don't know. Does anybody know of like a hero based like MMO style game that like has popped off?
Yeah, Genshin Impact, like all the MiYoYo games.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. And it seems like that's a major point of inspiration for them. So,
yeah, I mean, it could be cool if you pick one of the 4 characters and then you start in a different tribe and then you kind of learn how that tribe survives. Like, Aloy always looks at these tribes from a different perspective. She's always the outsider, so to actually live in these tribes, like, give a bigger sense of how they survive in this world could be cool. I think they could do some cool stuff with it. But I think overall, like, I think actually announcing the online game before the Lego game and the remaster are out would only hurt those titles. And with Bungie, it was, of course, Destiny 2. What are they gonna do next, right? And where are the PvP updates for Destiny 2? Oh, it's because they're doing this big PvP game. So I think that kind of made more sense for them. But also, them doing an Horizon mobile game, like, they're really treating it more like Destiny is on another level, like Call of Duty, Monster Hunter, but they're treating Horizon like that, and we will see.
We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. Sumaya, thank you for that super chat. Luke, how does it feel to talk to a dinosaur, the one and only Jor Raptor? Feels pretty good. Feels pretty good. That's why we've been doing it for a long time.
Yes.
I don't know what episode we're on, but we're having a great time. Sumaya, thank you for the other super chat. After finishing Metaphor, I have just one thing to say. He may not have the best awakening, but Heismay is still the best character. I love Heismay. I think he's great. I cannot wait to get back into Metaphor, because I took a detour while I was finishing Dragon Age. I'm done with Dragon Age. I did the romance I wanted to do. My wife finished Dragon Age, and this will shock maybe a lot of people. I've tried to be like very, very understanding and fair. I didn't want to talk to my wife about Dragon Age until she was done with it, because I didn't want to like alter her opinions or anything. I came upstairs after last night. She had gone through the finale. She's sitting kind of leaning against the counter in the kitchen. And I said, "Did you finish it?" She goes, yep. And I think it's a 6 out of 10 for me. I'm kind of pissed off. Like she finished it and she's like, the romances sucked. There's no real choice or consequence in the whole damn game. The finale's like kind of okay, but it basically is just determined whether you finish these quest lines. That determines how it plays out, not your choices. It's just whether you grind it enough. And like she started going off on all these things, and I was like, okay, yep, this is why I love you, because it was pretty good. So and I totally.
I'm more surprised by the fact that everyone has already forgotten about the game.
I think like people just the people that are raging about whatever like the woke elements are will continue talking about it, I'm sure. And frankly, like there are some quest lines where it's like, guys, what are we doing? Like this, the world is ending and this is what we're doing. Like a lot of the quest lines and the writing is just, I would say bad, high school grade at best, but it's at the end of the day, it's not a role-playing game. It's just not a role-playing game. It is a friendship simulator. And some people said it's like a group therapy simulator. That's kind of what it feels like. It's sort of like an action adventure game that has occasional choices, but the choices end their impact as soon as you make them. The only thing that lasts longer is which city you side with early. No spoilers beyond that, but that's about it. Like all the major RPG mechanics are implemented in the first like 6-7 hours, and that's it. The rest of the game is doing these like companion sidekick quest lines that really are pretty generic and mediocre in my opinion. So
I get why they didn't send review codes out to many more people. I think looking back on it, I think it's kind of impressive what they were able to do with the Metacritic.
mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, like that marketing team must be like,
mission accomplished.
Wow. They are happy right now.
Yeah, I think if it had gotten out to more people and more of us had had the chance to review it, it would have been. It was already kind of mixed, but still 80s are not bad. Like that's a decent score. That's a B-. But I think if they had sent out more review codes, it would be in the C- range. For me, after finishing it, after testing different endings, and after looking up like the different romance scenes, the different companion quest lines, and the cutscenes that play out through those, I'm thoroughly underwhelmed. And I feel kind of lied to, because at the preview event they really stressed that like, oh yeah, these consequences, these changes, just wait till you see what happens in Act 2 and 3. Just wait till you see this and this. Oh yeah, this is just the start. There's way more that you're going to see. And the more I saw, the less impressed I was, because the more they're like, the more I dug into it, the more lackluster those consequences became. Like, and it's okay if it doesn't want to be an RPG. It's kind of disappointing to see that BioWare's not making RPGs anymore, but it doesn't play like an RPG. It plays like an action game that has some companion quest lines, and that's it. Like, and it's just kind of underwhelming at the end of the day. So anyway, the Dragon Age thing is.
I'm gonna be fascinated when we hear the EA investor call and if they even mention the game.
Yeah, I think that they were going to be relying on a big tail for that game, but after I finished it and after I've seen kind of what it is, like, I don't think I can really recommend it to people right now. Like maybe on a deep sale you could check it out, but at this point, like, I don't think it has a big tail on it. They needed that tail to continue generating sales, kind of like Alan Wake 2, which still is not profitable to this day. So I think they need that long tail, and I just don't think they're going to have it, because I think word of mouth is going to dry up sales pretty quickly the more people finish it. I think when I finished the game, only like 2% of people had that achievement on Steam. So like a lot of people, and I wasn't like rushing through it to be clear. So I think a lot of people have not gotten there. And when they do, I think they're going to end up going, oh, okay. Especially once you start testing the different endings, because there isn't a bad ending. No like spoilers, but like there is not a, you effed it up, the world's over kind of ending. There just isn't. It's really disappointing. But anyway, let's see, where else was I? Edwin, thank you for that generous super chat. The Horizon series is too much style over substance. The gameplay is pretty fun, but everything else is meh. The thing people like is that each new Horizon game comes out every 5 years per new console. Do you agree with that sentiment? That Horizon's more substance, more style over substance? And that the main reason people like it is because it launches with new consoles and it's a showcase game?
I mean, it totally was for Forbidden West in a way, but I think Zero Dawn launched in 2017. The PS4 was out in 2013. Like, sure, it looked really great for that time, so that totally helped. But that I don't think is a bad thing. And I think if that was like if it was like Rise, Son of Rome, or Hellblade 2, where that was kind of the thing that people would run away with. Like, I think the combat is actually really good. I think the story of the first game is really, really good. The second game had its great moments as well. So, no, I don't agree with that.
Okay.
Obviously.
Jess, thank you for that one. Luke, did you show the Free Roam podcast song to Jor?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I can't read. I got the message across, but I inserted words that weren't there. But yes, I did send it to Jor. I did. Thank you again. Yeah. Edwin, thank you for that. I think one of the biggest things is that Veilguard shows how dated the BioWare formula is. Now other companies do the BioWare formula better. Yeah, I think that's fair.
But I think this wasn't even the BioWare formula.
Yeah, it's like the first few hours make you think you're getting a BioWare game, and that's what we were shown at the preview event, and that's why we got excited. And then you play the whole game and you're like, oh, so it's not that.
My biggest issue with it, and I'm like, I just have my full party, so I'm at the end of Act 1. My issue with it was that it did not feel like a seamless experience. It was really, okay, go to this mission through this loading screen, and then bam, you immediately meet this character in this random, like, there was no sense of scope. It all felt like tiny islands that were linked together, and that really, hurt the sense of adventure for me, because I did not feel in control. I was really going from conversation to conversation, to battle arena, to conversation. Like, I did not feel like I was playing myself, that I was going on this grand adventure. Let alone that the choice, of course, don't really matter, and I'm skipping a lot of the dialogue. I just can't take it.
It's all written very, like, I don't know. It's, for me, the way I put it was low energy. All the energy levels are at like 6 out of 10. So even when there's a dragon, it's like, a dragon's coming. We should get in cover. Instead of, oh my God, there's a goddamn dragon. Everyone run. You would think that that's what they'd be doing, but instead it's just, get down. There's a dragon coming. It's just very disappointing. Anyway, we could ramble about that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to film a video, bring Nikki in, and we're gonna do a husband-wife review breakdown. Nice. Where we can poke her brain, and because she's like the diehard Dragon Age fan. So for her to say that it's disappointing is pretty damning. Let's see, and then where else was there anything else there? Okay, Sumaya. Final super chat there says, not a Dragon Age fan. So is Dragon Age Veilguard like AC Valhalla for long-term AC fans? I don't think so. I think Valhalla was sort of like the natural evolution of the shift towards the open world thing, where they started really prioritizing quantity over quality. And so it's kind of the full realization of that philosophy, where they really just went huge with everything they were doing and the amount of stuff they were doing. Veilguard is not the evolution of any design philosophy. To me, it feels like an attempt to make a BioWare game from a team that didn't really want to make a BioWare game with tools that were not really suited for a BioWare game. The really tight levels feels like it's straight out of a multiplayer game because they kind of were. The game was at one point a multiplayer game, and then they transitioned to single player again. And I think that the way that they structured companions and the way they structured the lighthouse and the level design and then the moment-to-moment gameplay, fast traveling all over the place, was all born out of those multiplayer systems and the tools they had built up in Frostbite for that. And the writing, I just think is a reflection of the really talented writing staff from BioWare of old leaving. And now you have a lot of people that are more focused on like, let's talk about our feelings and friendships and anxieties, instead of tying a story together cleverly into the main narrative. And I will say, like, the companion quest lines are where most of Veilguard is. Like the main story you can get through in probably 15 to 17 hours, but if you're doing a lot of companion stuff, you're probably stretching to like 40, 50, 60 hours. But that means you got to like the companions. Otherwise, that last 2/3 feels horrible. And I honestly don't know if I like any of the companions that much. They're all like really generic, really meh. And, you know, when you have 2/3 of your game that depends on one aspect and the one aspect is not very good, you shouldn't be surprised when people fall off the game and don't like it.
I think for Valhalla, it still had a lot of things that people did like about it in terms of like what they were looking for an Assassin's Creed game. And I also think that game gave you a lot of room to still go in multiple directions. For Dragon Age, I feel like there's just one way. Like, even if I go in other directions, I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still talking to this person, going into this battle arena, and then picking up an item and then bringing that back. While with Valhalla, I do think, they had more systems in place and you could kind of get more lost in that world. So yeah, I don't know. I think Valhalla gets like, I don't think people will say Dragon Age: The Veilguard is my favorite Dragon Age game. For Valhalla, they won't say that.
What's
either.
so funny is that you just mentioned it's not my favorite. Nikki told me when I was talking to her about this, she said, I can't believe I'm saying this, but like now I think Inquisition is like one of my favorite Dragon Age games. She's like, what have they done? That it's like Dragon Age Origins, because it was like Origins, Inquisition 2, and now it's like Origins, Inquisition 2, Veilguard, and so all of a sudden it's in like the top. It's like in the winning category, and it's. But that's the thing is like it makes Inquisition somehow look really solid. But I think Veilguard is one of those games that like really prioritized. To go back to the Horizon super chat from Edwin, it's a lot of style over substance. I think a lot of the time the hair sim, great character creator, really solid, graphics really good. But once you start digging into it, once you get your teeth into it, it starts to get really tasteless and. You can tell it's like a cake covered in fondant, you know, like that weird sugary plasticky stuff. It's like it looks beautiful, but you taste it and it doesn't taste particularly good, but it looks great. You know, that's kind of what Veilguard.
And there's nothing in that game that it does better than any other game,
other than hair sim. The hair sim is great, but like, like the combat, the enemy variety is the other thing I haven't heard a lot of people talk about. The lack of enemy variety is shocking. Yeah. It's shocking. And I am the prophet of zits. I swear to God, because I said back in like February when Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League came out, I was like, what is it with everybody's obsession with games having like these zits that you can pop? For Suicide Squad, it was all about popping these big glowing purple zit weak points and stuff. And then in Veilguard, you're running around popping all these red glowing purples or glowing red zits. And then they pop, and then the vein carries over to this other one. You pop that one, and then it carries over to this door, and you pop that one, and then the door opens. Like, what is it with these companies and then shooting gigantic glowing?
They looked at God of War and used all the puzzle mechanics, but then didn't do anything interesting with them. It were just a way to open another door, and yeah, God of War at least had some cool mechanics around that. Like that is, I think, another, and we're getting kind of off track here, but that's another, like, a lot of companies right now are afraid to challenge the player. Like
Yeah.
they think they need to have puzzles because that's what a game is. But they're afraid that, like, what was I playing recently where I was like, I think it was like Star Wars Outlaws. Like one of the boss fights. It's like there's constantly a message in the screen where it's like, you have to do this. You have to do this. Like, I'm not stupid. Like, just
I think I
the
think it's this like
yeah.
development through focus groups and overly testing it and trying to appeal to this mass market of people that don't play a lot of games. And what drives me crazy is like it assumes that you're stupid. You know, Black Myth sells amazingly well. Elden Ring sells amazingly well. Like, these are not games that hold your hand at all. And they're unapologetic in letting you just figure it out, hit your head against the wall. And clearly, when players feel that challenge, they connect with it. And if they struggle with it, they'll look up a guide and they'll figure it out. But so many of these other big studios, it feels like there's this common thread with like kind of this cringy, very, very like immature, bare bones writing that's tied with this approach where they think that players are stupid and that they need to have their hand held constantly. And I think it says a lot about what they think of their audience, that they feel like they need to spell out what characters are feeling and thinking word for word, that they need to hold your hand from level to level. They need to paint all the ladders bright yellow so you can see what you should climb next. Like it's the it's the dumbing down of it. DSP has done massive damage to game design approaches. Yeah, it's funny because DSP was actually shown in that developer GDC conference thing where they were showing how they altered level design in God of War 2018, or maybe I think it was 2018, not Ragnarok, but they altered game design because one streamer was on video like struggling to figure out where to go, and he was saying the developers are idiots, why are they doing this, they're so stupid. So like, we don't want that to happen, so we'll make it way more obvious. And they had it so like you turn in the river and then there's this gigantic basically glowing arrow pointing where you should go. It's just
I mean, it goes luckily like to end on a positive note. They did add to God of War Ragnarok right now a enable puzzle hints. Yeah. So
that's what you should do. Like on the story difficulty, have that enabled. Everyone else have it disabled.
Yeah, but know that it's there, and then like that's what I think Rockstar has always done. If they see, okay, you're stuck at this point like for a long time, they will either, and Naughty Dog did this as well, they will either be like, hey, do you want the hint? Press up on the D-pad. In Rockstar's case, they will even be like, hey, do you want to skip this combat encounter? You suck. And then you can like do that. So I think that's a better way than just not have that option at all, or like not have the choice for the game to spoil it, because they instantly will. In the case of Star Wars Outlaws, it was even for me extra confusing, where it's like, they want me to do this, so I was just reading that, and then I was like, how am I even supposed to do that? Well, I would have probably otherwise figured it out myself.
Gamers are smart. You don't have to hold their hand, and if they need their hand held, put it in an accessibility option. Maybe when the first time you boot up the game, just say, hey, there are puzzles in this game that can be difficult. Would you like us to give you hints? And then I'll turn it off, but I now know that's in the settings if I need it later. Easy peasy. MJ, sorry, just for this one, very generous $20 super chat. Thank you, MJ.
Wow.
Thank you for the 20. I ran into one of the actors from the game. I'm assuming Veilguard. Can't say who though, but they mentioned that there was a lot that changed for their character and felt that EA had a lot more input in development than was let on. I will say, like, obviously
HR in the room?
I can't verify that, but I will say that I do think that EA towards the end of development had a lot more control over things than BioWare did. There's the story of the really bad trailer at launch, or at announcement when they first dropped that trailer that was really poorly received. I spoke to people who worked at BioWare, very high level people at BioWare at that preview event, who said, we did not like that trailer. We told them not to do that trailer, but EA did it anyways. And for me, that was good to hear at the time because I was like, okay, well, they Bioware, the devs didn't like that. I didn't like that trailer, so it must not be reflective of the actual game. But there's also other stuff like with the review code situation where people that I was speaking to, some directors, some head level like producers that worked at Bioware, we were talking to them about review codes. And they're like, yeah, we got you. And then they were told no by EA corporate. So like there were things going on at corporate that I think affected that towards the end.
Yeah.
And I think now that the game's been out, we can see that like they were trying to keep certain like quest lines and like Tash as a character. They're trying to keep Tash out of the spotlight because they knew there would be social blowback. And so I think that there were many, many things going on behind the scenes that we haven't heard about yet. But I'm sure it's going to come out as the years go by.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's just where we are at. Like, these games cost so much money. They take so many years to make. If you can like be more hands-on as an EA, like you don't want. And I mean, they still stepped on some wrecks that caused some issues. But I do think sending out more reviews would have hurt the game. I mean, you already see it. It was like at an 87 or something.
I think
Around,
84 on launch day. It's
really?
dropping.
Okay. Yeah, it's now 82, so that's not that bad. But
Is that on
yeah,
PS5? What's it at on PC?
Yeah,
Because PC it was
okay.
at 80.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I just think it's frustrating for me, and like I said, I feel like they intentionally or not misled me, and therefore like misled my ability to provide accurate coverage of the game. And now that I've finished it and I'm done with the game, I'm underwhelmed, and I feel like a lot of this could have been fixed if they had been more transparent with the later game to more people ahead of time. But
Yeah, but they just of course don't want that.
yeah,
They are in the business to sell the game, sadly. Yeah, obviously.
yeah.
And we are in the business to sell 5-star reviews on the podcast on
Indeed.
Spotify. So if you have 1 minute left in your day, or just like us and are very busy, then we don't mind it either. Go to Spotify, of course, where you get the podcast, and leave that 5-star review. We got some extra people that did that. We are 335 right now, so we appreciate every single one of you who took the time to give that 5-star review. That is very, very kind. And yeah, we will of course be back with more discussions like this next week. Stalker time. I'm not sure if I'm gonna touch that. We will also have Star Wars Outlaws coming back. It will not be out yet though, the update, but maybe they will talk about some changes. Again, I've been playing the game more. I finally put the necessary time into it, and have some thoughts we might want to go over. Maybe there are some other things. We could look at the Game Awards, of course, that is happening on December 12th. Maybe we have some rumors or something.
Oh, what we should do though, it's a tradition at this point. Metacritic predictions for Stalker 2. I don't know when the review embargo lifts, so I have no idea. I'm not reviewing it, to be clear, just for everybody.
No, me neither. I'm not hearing anything about it.
Yeah, I have not heard anybody who's reviewing it. I don't know if codes have even gone out yet. But
Phil Spencer said, though, in that interview we talked about, that he thinks that it's gonna be on some people's Game of the Year list. But yeah, that's Phil Spencer, of course. He's gonna say that. But,
yeah, I think he said similar stuff about Starfield. I'm guessing
quality has really come a long way. I'm proud that we got the partner to get the game done. I think it's going to be on some people's list of their favorite Game of the Year. But yeah, some people's list. Like, of course, he's talking about that person we talked about earlier with the Hellblade 2 tweet. So yeah, of course, like even if it was like a 3 out of 10, they would put it on their Game of the Year list.
Yeah,
I think this is a very hard one. This is one of the harder ones.
If it's because it comes back. Our experience with the game is with that like not great demo. So my perspective is like permanently tainted by that. I think if they did polish it up and fix it up and it runs well and is like really polished up, then I think it could be easily like 86, 87. But if it's really like, I think technical stuff is going to be a problem. I don't expect it to run particularly well. That's just my gut. Having played it
Wow.
only a handful of months ago, unless that demo I played was like a year and a half, 2 years old, I'd be worried.
I think I know what I'm going. I think it's also they said on November 8th that it has gone gold and it's coming out on the 20th. Usually that's like a longer window. But I'm gonna say 77.
See, where I'm conflicted is that the Stalker fans are more willing to put up with jank because that's part of like Stalker's identity. It's like old school BGS games. People are kind of used to it, so they might be more willing to excuse it. What did you say?
I hope
70 something?
77. Hope it's better, of course, but I feel if it was really that in like they would have been like, what is the marketing? Or maybe I'm not in the bubble, but I'm not hearing anything about the game.
I'm gonna be optimistic because we did watch a video of somebody that played it. I think it's gonna come out to like 81.
I think that's solid.
I think there's going to be some people who are like old school Stalker fans that are going to eat it up and love it and give it like 9s and 10s. And then there's going to be other people who have not played the original game and are like, this is really clunky and unfamiliar. And they're probably going to give it like 6s and 5s. So I think it'll average out to like 81.
Okay.
So you heard it here first, folks. We'll see who's right. Technically,
And
I
next
won on a
week.
technicality when it came to peak concurrent player numbers for Veilguard. I was still very far away, but I was closer than Raptor's prediction.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah,
But
yeah.
I won on a technicality, so we'll see if I win this one. Raptor, though, typically is much better at guessing Metacritic scores. I think, what was it? You got one of them exactly right.
Yeah.
Was it Black Myth, maybe? You got a couple of them like exactly right, which I always find impressive. So we'll see. Time will tell.
I'm just less like. Do you know how long they played the Stalker 2 preview? Like how many hours did they play?
I think Destin played it. I don't know. Destin, are you in chat? Sometimes he watches the stream.
Oh really?
IGN Stalker 2 preview. It wasn't that much. Maybe it wasn't Destin. Was it Destin? Let me look up the transcript real quick. Hours. 2 hours.
Yeah, that's a red flag to me.
2-hour preview. But
Yeah, that's a red flag. So that close to launch? How long did you play Dragon Age?
7, and it turned out that we played all of the really good parts of the game, and
I know, but still, I mean, how long did people play Redfall? Like,
I think like 4 or 5
how
hours.
long did they play? No, Redfall was 45 minutes.
Oh wait, you're right. It was like 30, 45. Yeah. Well, what was
It's
funny about
out
that
of
is like they
midnight,
only invited like the most diehard like Xbox fanboys to that.
I
from
know
what
people
recall.
were super angry. They were like, I was flying to this event and I only played 45 minutes. Like, that's a red flag, of course. Like, they knew the longer people play, the.
Yeah, people like what I
few
experienced
hours.
was like a little clunky, but I'm sure they can polish it up before launch. And this will be a game of the year contender.
They say, by the way, that they played that South Midnight is like 15 to 20 hours. So it's.
Well, we heard in the video we just watched was like 10
Oh really?
in the IGN thing.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
Well,
that's
how much did they the previews play?
the previews. It was hands off.
Oh.
Yeah, the
Okay,
preview
then
for South of
maybe
Midnight was
further
hands-off.
away than we thought. Okay.
Yeah, it was not a hands-on preview thing. But the Xbox,
I think Stalker 2 hours because Stalker's big. Should be big, right? I think
Yeah,
2 hours
apparently.
is kind of a red flag. But we'll
Yeah,
see.
I think I can find the exact clip, but it was like 10 hours.
Yeah, I see some people talk about it here as well.
Yeah.
7 out of 10 IGN. They already posted their review.
Got ahead of it.
Feels like a 7 out of 10 game, right?
Yeah.
They should go
Verdant,
back to like
Babel,
point
Stalker's
five.
gonna pop off hard. Every preview I've seen is calling this game
I
of
hope
contender.
so. I
Yeah,
hope so, man.
we're all rooting for him, man. It's the point is like you got to remember it's a wide swath of people that are reviewing this. There's a lot of like old school Stalker fans that are going to play it and review it, and then there's also going to be a lot of people who have never touched a Stalker game or the original Stalker, and are going to play it and probably find it kind of clunky and tough to get into, and they're probably going to score it poorly. So like whenever there's a game that's going to be polarizing like that, the middle is where it's going to average out, and so it's probably in like high 70s, low 80s. To get a critically like universally acclaimed game that everybody agrees is a 9 or a 10, where the point where the Metacritic lands there, that is extremely difficult and rare. It doesn't mean that you're gonna dislike it if it's an 81 or if it's a 79 or whatever. Like you probably will end up loving it just as much. But the point is, like, if we're predicting Metacritic scores, we're not saying that's what we would score it. It's just where we think it'll end up. But time will tell.
Yeah, we will see. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's better than that. But I think, yeah, the 77 feels like a good spot where
Safe
it's like some people will not like the technical state probably.
Yeah.
And others will.
But it's on freaking Game Pass. So even if it's like, it's Game Pass, download it, play it, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be really buggy. Based on what I played in June, this will not be a super polished experience. But I hope it is. But I would bet that it's going to be kind of rough around the edges. But from what I understand, a lot of Stalker fans don't mind that. So, cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm seeing more hype for it than Indiana Jones, at least.
Yeah, Indiana Jones, I think a lot of people are just like, ever since you said it looks like a VR game, I can't shake that. I every time I look at it. And then I think they said something like they mentioned that the FOV was going to be locked on console, and that, I mean, it's just like a VR game. It's I really think there's just something about it that is not clicking with me, and I should be like the target audience because I love Uncharted, I love adventure games, I love the historical stuff, I love archaeology, I love that stuff, but there's just still something about it that's not clicking with me, and I'm not totally sure what it is, but
yeah, I hope it turns out great. Again, it's a good studio, so it's just that I don't know who this is for. But, I mean, there are people obviously, but also looking at the views for that game, that game overview, I don't think a lot of people watch that.
Yeah, it's also been kind of impressive to me how it's not popped off, because Indiana Jones, everybody knows about Indiana Jones, but like the final preview did 189 from IGN. The deep dive trailer from 2 days ago that's 15 minutes long, that's the big gameplay overview, did 332. Not terrible.
Or from IGN?
Yeah. So like I think people are cautiously interested, but again, it's a Game Pass title. Like it's I think people the need to find out a lot about a game ahead of launch is lower when it's a Game Pass title, because like it's just not that high of stakes. If you're going to spend $70 on it, yeah, you want to know if that's worth that money. But when it's a Game Pass title and you're like, I'll just download it and try it, it's not as crazy. There's no uncut gameplay of Indiana Jones. Yeah, Samaya, I think that's where my red flag goes up, is that these stealth games are determined, they're made or broken based on the AI. And if they can like really have solid AI, then it can do really, really well, and they can be really fun and engaging and interesting to check out and kind of poke and prod. But if the AI is bad, the game will fail. Like the game just doesn't work. Star Wars Outlaws is a great example. And the problem for me is that they've not, like, they cut the gameplay footage every time you would see what another AI NPC would do. So like you took out this guy stealthily and then it cuts. Or it's like you took him out and then you're going to move up to this next guy and then it cuts. And so it just seems like they keep breaking it up and it's hard to figure out what the game's going to feel like when you're working through a level, you know? But
I hope it's good. It kind of reminds me of that Jason that Bourne game. Do you remember that? I don't know
No.
why the 1-to-1 fights. Yeah, I think it was third person, but that also had like the fights where suddenly you were just in this like small arena and you could only just fight. I don't know why, but watching the overview, like it does seem like people are interested. Like the 300,000, that's a lot. So hope it does well. Like Bethesda does need a win.
Yeah,
Again, without Microsoft,
yeah, if Microsoft hadn't bought them, like ZeniMax would be in serious trouble recently.
Yeah.
But that's the magic of Microsoft buying you, is that you can just get away with
Yep.
kind
You
of
get the
rough
free
launches.
pass.
Yep.
Yeah.
You get the Game Pass. But
The Game Pass and
Yeah.
the free pass. Okay, everyone, let us know what you, of course, thought in the comments down below. Leave that review, and we'll be back soon.
yep, much love, everybody. I think we caught up on everything there. Let me double check Twitch, make sure we caught up. Yep, okay, everything, everybody. You guys are wonderful. Much love. We'll see you soon. Hugs and kisses. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.